All right, let's talk about Aphrodite. And when you hear that name, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably love, right? Or beauty, maybe that famous statue with no arms. And yeah, that's all true, but it's really just scratching the surface. Today, we're going to go way deeper. We're going to unlock the secrets hidden inside her symbols. We're talking everything from a simple seashell to a golden apple. And you'll see how these things reveal a goddess who was way more complex and honestly, a lot more dangerous than you might think. So, let's just get this out of the way. Is she just the goddess of love? The answer is not even close. No way. I mean, if you think of her as just some kind of ancient Cupid, you're missing the whole picture. You're ignoring the sheer power, the danger, and this raw, primal force that she represented. You gotta remember, the ancient Greeks didn't just see a pretty face. They saw a goddess who was literally born from violence, a being who could control the currents of our hearts and, get this, start massive wars. She was so much more. And the way we get to that deeper truth, well, it's all about her symbols. Seriously, these aren't just little trinkets or accessories she carried around. You should think of them as a kind of visual language, a code. Every single one tells a part of her story. And what a story it is, starting with that crazy birth from sea foam all the way to her becoming one of the most powerful gods on Mount Olympus. So if we learn to read this language, we can finally grasp what she was all about.
Okay, so our journey starts right where hers did, with her absolutely wild birth from the foam of the sea. And this isn't just some cool mythological backstory. No, this is the absolute foundation of who she is. It's like her source code, you know? It's what connects her to these chaotic, wild forces of nature. And you're going to see that theme pop up again and again in every symbol we look at. And this quote right here, this really nails it. Her symbols are physical conduits for the themes of birth, beauty, and desire. Okay, conduits. What does that mean? It means they're not just symbols of something, they are like channels. They literally channel the raw power of her origin story, all that beauty, that intense desire, the chaos of the ocean, and they make it real, something you can almost touch. They bring her divine power right down into our world. Which brings us to her very first and maybe most famous symbol. It's basically her birthright, the seashell. You've all seen the paintings, right? Botticelli's Venus on the half shell. But it's so much more than just the boat that brought her ashore. It's a massive statement about where she comes from and who she really is. So that scallop shell, it's her throne, it's her chariot, it's her business card. Think about that for a second. A simple object from the bottom of the ocean is suddenly a symbol of divine power. On one level, it's about protection, right? The hard shell protecting the beautiful thing inside. But it's also about the big reveal, the moment her incredible beauty is presented to the world. And maybe most importantly, it's this constant reminder of where she came from. She's not a sky god, she's not an earth god. She came from the chaotic, powerful, totally unpredictable ocean. And because of that, she rules over something just as unpredictable, the tides of the human heart. Okay, so from the raw power of the ocean, let's shift gears. Now we're going to look at the symbols for what she's most famous for, love and affection. So we're going from crashing waves to, well, the flutter of wings and the scent of a flower. But, and this is a big but, you're about to see that even when it comes to romance, with Aphrodite, things are never as simple or as safe as they look. First up, we have the dove. And if you look at ancient art, you see doves everywhere around her. Sometimes they're just fluttering about, other times they're literally pulling her chariot across the sky, which is pretty cool. They represent that gentle, harmonious side of love, the peaceful connection between two people. Their famous loyalty, that soft cooing, it all points to tenderness and joy. And the fact that they fly, that's not just a detail. It's meant to show that the kind of love she represents can lift you up, take you beyond the everyday and closer to something divine. And then we have the rose. Now, if the dove is all about harmony, the rose is about pure, unadulterated passion. And this, right here, is where you really see the two sides of Aphrodite's power. There's this incredible legend that says all roses used to be white. They only turned red after Aphrodite, in a panic, ran to her dying lover, Adonis. She stepped on a thorn, and her blood dripped onto the petals, staining them forever. And that story tells you everything you need to know. The rose is pleasure and pain all wrapped up in one. You get the amazing scent, the beautiful petals, but you also get the sharp thorns. It's the perfect, and I mean perfect, symbol for a love that is as beautiful as it is dangerous. All right, we've talked about emotions. Now let's talk about power, real power. we're moving on to the instruments that made Aphrodite not just a goddess of feelings, but a goddess of pure influence. These are the things that let her bend the will of anyone, mortals and, yeah, even other gods. So check this out. The cestus. It was her magical girdle or belt, and this was no fashion statement, believe me. It was basically a weapon of influence. It was enchanted to make whoever wore it completely 100% irresistible. The power was so legendary that Hera, the queen of the gods herself, once borrowed it. And why would she do that? To enchant her own husband Zeus, so she could manipulate things behind the scenes during the Trojan War. Just think about that. It shows Aphrodite's power wasn't just about looking good. It was an active, supernatural force that could literally change the course of history. And that theme of duality, of two sides to every coin, continues with these next two items. First, you have the mirror. This is all about the internal side of her power, self-awareness, knowing your own beauty, that kind of quiet confidence. But then, you have the golden apple, and that is all about the external, explosive consequences of beauty. It's about the competition, the jealousy, the conflict that beauty can cause. So one is quiet self-reflection, and the other is basically a grenade. And speaking of grenades, that brings us to the story of the Judgment of Paris. This is it, the big one. So picture this. A huge wedding for the gods. Everything's going great, until Eris, the goddess of discord, great party guest, right, crashes it. She throws a golden apple into the middle of the party that says, "For the fairest." Well, three goddesses immediately lunge for it. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. They need a judge, so they pick a poor mortal schmuck, Prince Paris of Troy. Hera offers him political power, Athena offers him victory in war, but Aphrodite, she offers him the most beautiful woman on earth, Helen of Sparta. Guess who he picked? He gives the apple to Aphrodite, and with that one choice, he kicks off the entire Trojan War. It's the ultimate proof of how devastating her power could be. So, okay. Let's pull all of this together. We've gone from the bottom of the ocean to the middle of a battlefield. What does this wild collection of symbols actually tell us about who Aphrodite was? What's the bigger picture? Well, when you lay it all out, you can see a whole story unfold, right? It starts with the seashell, which ties her to that raw, elemental power of the sea. Then you get the dove and the rose, which show her control over both the gentle and the dangerous sides of love. And finally, you have the girdle and the apple, which proves she had this incredible, world-changing power. Each symbol is like a chapter in her story. And here's the main takeaway, the most important thing to remember. Aphrodite is not just some vain goddess staring into a mirror. She is a dynamic, unpredictable, powerful force of nature. She represents creation. I mean, she was born from the sea itself. And she represents transformation, the power to change everything, to start wars, to end them, to change the course of history with just a single promise. And this quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? Her legacy didn't die out with the ancient Greeks. Her essence, her power, it's still all around us. You can feel it in the beauty and the danger of a rose. You can see it in the flight of a dove, and you can hear it in the roar of the ocean. It's proof that beauty isn't just a fleeting thing. It's a force, and it never really goes away. Which really leaves us with one last question to chew on. We've seen that beauty is this powerful, unstoppable force in the world. But we've also seen, thanks to that golden apple and a 10-year war, that it can come with a very, very high price. Competition, envy, destruction. So the question Aphrodite's story leaves us with is a big one. What is the true cost of all that beauty?